Are we looking, how do I say, for opportunities to spread the gospel? Can an opportunity knock and you not realize it? Do you have to preach to be able to do that? No, you can go out in your everyday lives and live that life and just be the example to others. This week, it's funny how I talk on our small group, we're talking about the book of James, and I didn't think too much about it, and then went to hear somebody speak, and the speaker talked about James chapter 1. Oh, you in the James club, because they had some personal conflicts. And then it was to the discussion, I said, wow, we're talking about this in small group, and now all of a sudden it pops up. Last week, talking about Israel wanting to have a king. They gave him a king. It really wasn't God's purpose. He gave him a king. It was King Saul. Talked about some of the things that he did. And purpose of the class is, can I serve in the American army? And can I be in the Lord's army? Now, based on everything that we've read so far, and last week, King Saul went into the Amalekites and went to war with them. Right now, does God, in this context, does God approve of armies? At that time? Told them how to do it? All right, so with that, I do have a purpose. So when we get to today, some people, can they still be in the army or not? We're setting the tone that God's established an army here. He's established a king. Really didn't want to establish a king, right? But he did it anyway because that's what the people want. And again, be careful what you ask for because you just might get it. So last week we talked about the Amalekites. You remember who the Amalekites were? In reference to the scripture, we're going to be in 1 Samuel chapter 15. And I'll read this real quick. Verse 19. This is God told him to go attack the Amalekites. Do you remember why he said the Amalekites? Killing the poor and the stragglers of who? Guess what term came up when I'm watching the news and listening to radio and watching the news? What term came up this week? The Amalekites. And I'm listening. I said, wait a minute. That's an old 3,000-year-old term. What in the world are y'all talking about Amalekites for? And it was in relationship to what was going on in the Middle East, trying to make it a comparison of some of the things that were going on. So what I'm saying is just listen, because a lot of stuff that goes on today, especially over that region, we're studying about now. And I'm not only trying to talk about can I be in the army, but trying to take some little side roads so when you study the Bible, you can hear things. So when somebody talks about the Abraham Accords, how can Jews, Muslims, and Christians all be in agreement when they are diametrically opposed religiously each other, and some want to kill the other ones? How they can all agree on the term the Abraham Accords? How does that happen? And if you know background, I'm fixing to give you some more background here, but very quickly we'll start in verse 19 of 1 Samuel 15. Saul won the victory. He didn't only destroy the people. He didn't kill everybody, and he didn't kill the king. Why then did you not obey the voice of the Lord? Why did you swoop down on the spoil and do evil in the sight of the Lord? And Saul said to Samuel, but I have obeyed the voice of the Lord and gone on the mission on which the Lord sent me, and brought back Agag, king of Amalek. I have utterly destroyed the Amalekites. What was Saul not supposed to have done? Done that. He wasn't supposed to bring him back. And then the next verse he talks about they brought back sheep and oxen. What were they supposed to do with the sheep and oxen? All right. King Agag is mentioned in verse 20. Let's go to verse 27. Samuel and Saul speaking in verse 27. And Samuel turned around to go away. Saul seized the edge of his robe, and it tore. So Samuel said to him, the Lord has torn the kingdom of Israel from you today, and has given it to a neighbor of yours who is better than you. So because of this, Saul is going to lose his kingdom. What happened to Moses? Was Moses allowed to go into the promised land? Because he did something. We won't go back and review that. Let's go to verse 32, to the end of the chapter. Well, I'll go to 31. So Samuel turned back after Saul, and Saul worshiped the Lord. Then Samuel said, remember, who is Samuel? What is his title? A prophet, who was the go-between. There was no king at that time. He's the go-between God and the children of Israel. Then Samuel said, bring Agag, king of the Amalekites, here to me. So Agag came to him cautiously. And Agag said, surely the bitterness of death is past. But Samuel said, as your sword has made women childless, so shall your mother be childless among women. And Samuel hacked Agag in pieces before the Lord in Gilgal. Then Samuel went to Ramah, and Saul went up to his house at Gibeah of Saul. And Samuel went no more to see Saul until the day of his death. Nevertheless, Samuel mourned for Saul, and the Lord regretted that he made Saul king over Israel. Did God want to make a king? So now he regrets doing it? Does God have any regrets? Okay, the other time that we read this in Genesis, we won't go back, Genesis chapter 6, 5, 6, and 7, because of the wickedness of man, and God regretted that he made man. All right, because there's that freedom of choice and all that other things that we've talked about. That's just an interesting side road. All right, as we move on, Saul was the first king. Who was the second king? David. Who was the third king? Solomon. Who does everybody talk about today? Of those three kings, which one is pretty well talked about the most? King David. Why? We will get to that. But let's talk about Samuel kills King Agag, and again, I've got why genealogy is important. That's the underlying theme of the army, why genealogy is important. Is genealogy important in the Bible? If you go to the Gospels, you'll read Jesus' genealogy of where he comes from in two different books. Now we're going to talk about Queen Esther real quick. Why Queen Esther? Anybody know the story of Queen Esther? Huh? Basically. Babylon comes and takes people away, takes the Israelites away. Esther. Has anybody read the book of Esther? All right. Huh? Mordecai. Who's Mordecai to Esther? It's her uncle. All right. So what does this have to do with anything? We're getting off at an exit. We're going to go eat at Buc-ee's or spend a little bit of time in Buc-ee's, and we're going to get back on the interstate. Let's go to Esther. We're going to set the tone here. Chapter 1, verses 1 and 2. Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus, this was the Ahasuerus who reigned over 127 provinces from India to Ethiopia. In those days, when King Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan, the citadel. Just setting the stage here. Who is King Ahasuerus? Does anybody list his name something other than this one? Did anybody mention Xerxes? All right. Footnote, what's your footnote say? It's King Xerxes. All right, this is the king. Do we believe the Bible is true? All right, do we believe this guy existed? All right, have y'all seen the movie 300? Know what I'm talking about? Theopoly, the Spartans. Did that battle happen? Watch the movie. It's happened. All right, it actually happened. That King Xerxes of King Esther is the same Xerxes of the 300. Question of when you go back and date it of when it happened before or after or whatever, but it's the same King Xerxes. Just interesting things so next time you watch 300. And there's an old version and there's a new version. Let's go to chapter 2. What was Abraham, and this is this Bible study stuff. Abraham was called a Hebrew, right? Way back in Genesis. And you remember what Hebrew meant? One that was called or came over the river, because he came when he was in Egypt. When he met and was traveling around, they called him. We're going to learn something else today. Let's go to Esther chapter 2. We'll start in verse 5. In Shushan, the citadel, there was a certain Jew whose name was Mordecai, the son of Jair, the son of Shemuel, the son of Kish, a Benjamite. Kish had been carried away from Jerusalem with the captives who had been captured with Jeconiah, king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away. All right, just a couple side notes on this. The main guy here is Mordecai. If you've read Esther, is it coming back to what he is? He's up in the government. Let's read his pedigree. Again in verse 5. In Shushan, the citadel, there was a certain Jew whose name was Mordecai, the son of Jair, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, a Benjamite. Why do we care if he's a Benjamite? From the tribe of Benjamin. Huh? All right, King Saul was a Benjamite, was from the tribe of Benjamin. All right, remember, time of the prophets till they had the first king, when Moses left Israel, 400 years. From King Saul to here is approximately 500 years. All right, genealogy. We'll get to that in a minute. Just remember, he's the same tribe as King Saul was. And this isn't something else. The book of Esther. What was Esther's name? Huh? Hadassah. Esther is her Babylonian name, is her Persian name. In verse 7, Mordecai had brought up Hadassah, that is Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother. The young woman was lovely and beautiful. When her father and mother died, Mordecai took her as his own daughter. Why did Mordecai not call her Hadassah and call her Esther? Or do you even care? It all works together. Hadassah was a Jewish name. Mordecai hadn't told anybody that they were Jews. And the other thing I want to mention back in verse 6, verse 5. In Shushan, the citadel, there was a certain Jew whose name was Mordecai. All right, we know where why they're called Hebrews. Why are they called Jews? This is the first time I believe in the Bible that the Israelites are called a Jew. Why are they called Jews? Anybody care? Sir? Huh? Descendants of the tribe of Judah? Okay. Or, remember when Israel split? There was a northern kingdom and a southern kingdom. What was the southern kingdom called? Judah. When they went in and armies captured them, they would go in, they destroyed the upper kingdom, but they didn't destroy the lower kingdom, tribe of Judah. So a Jew is somebody from Judah, not necessarily the tribe of Judah, but that's where it comes from. It's Judah because they called the southern kingdom Judah. So whenever you talk about the Judean, that's what they're talking about. Just little things to get why this stuff all twines together. From King Saul, now we're King Esther. He's a Benjamite. Let's go to chapter 3, why that even matters. Chapter 3, verse 1. After these things, King Ahasuerus promoted Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agite, and advanced him in his seat above all the princes who were with him. What's an Agite? These are just names we read about in the Bible. We don't care about that. Who was Paul supposed to have killed? King Agag. This guy is a descendant of King Agag, an Amalekite, who were bitter enemies of Israel or Jews. This is 500 years. Why do you think they mentioned Haman the Agagite? Huh? He should have been gone, but he's setting the tone of why Esther happens. And in verse 2, and all the king's servants who were with the king's gate bowed and paid homage to Haman, for so the king had commanded concerning him. But Mordecai would not bow or pay homage. Then the king's servants who were with the king's gate said to Mordecai, why do you transgress the king's command? Now it happened when they spoke to him daily, and he would not listen to them. And they told it to Haman to see whether Mordecai's words would stand. For Mordecai had told them that he was a Jew. It's been a secret up until this time. He ain't said a word about it. When Haman saw that Mordecai did not bow or pay homage, Haman was filled with wrath. Why did Mordecai not like Haman? Because he was a descendant of King Agag, which was an Amalekite, which is their bitter enemies. That was 500 years. Do we see any of that going on in the Middle East today? All right, so when you see that and you can't understand why that stuff is going on, we're reading about it here, so when you study your Bible and you see things like that, it can pop up. But that's why they're in constant conflict, is because people sometimes are an elephant. They remember things that maybe doesn't make a difference, or they should forget. But that's why genealogy is important when you're reading the Bible. When they list a bunch, all of a sudden they list somebody's genealogy, there's a reason for it. And we're going back 500 years from when King Saul didn't do what he was supposed to. And everybody remember the story of what happened in Esther? Because Mordecai wouldn't bow down to him, knew he was a Jew, what did he do? Got a command to kill every single one of them. So people have been trying to kill the Israelites, the Jews, for a long time. And of course the plot was turned around, and Haman had built some gallows, was going to hang them, and then messed around, and tide was turned, and anyway, Haman was hung on his own gallows, was killed. But the point of this is genealogy is important as we move through the Bible. We'll move to King David. Let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 18. All right, I'm not going to spend a whole lot to explain who King David was. You know, David and Goliath, he had done that, worked his way up and became king. And on a side note, did David want to build the first temple? He did, very much. Was he allowed to build a temple? Why not? What does blood on his hands mean? Killed a lot of people? All right. Let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 18, verse 5. So David went out wherever Saul sent him, and he's not a king yet. Saul is still and Saul sent him and behaved wisely. And Saul sent him over the men of war, and he was accepted in the sight of all the people, and also in the sight of Saul's servants. Verse 6, now it happened as they were coming home, when David was returning from the slaughter of the Philistine, that the women had come out of the cities of Israel, singing and dancing to meet King Saul, with tambourines, with joy, and with musical instruments. So the women sang as they danced and said, listen to what they're singing. Saul has slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s. Did that cause any problem between David and King Saul? In history, when somebody tries to usurp the king and do one better than the king, does that work out for the person that did it? No, he didn't. But in men's minds, he didn't usurp. David, if you read David, goes out of his way not to usurp King Saul, I believe. He could have killed him a couple times. He didn't do it. He said God put him in place. It's not my power to take him out. But just set the tone that David was a godly man and was also evidently a very good soldier. Now, does it say, and this is another context thing, when Saul has slain his thousands and David his 10,000s, does that mean David personally killed 10,000 people? Does that mean Saul personally killed 1,000 people? What does that mean? The overall, he was in charge of it. His strategies or whatever worked out that he was able to up the ante and the victories. In verse 8, then Saul was very angry, and the saying displeased him, and he said, they have described to David 10,000, and to me they have ascribed only thousands. Now what more can we have but the kingdom? So in his mind, he's already saying David's going to try to overthrow the throne. Was that David's intent? All right, let's go to 2 Samuel. Chapter 8. We'll go to verse 23, and I'm going to hit and miss. Well, there's not an 8:23 in this one, so where am I reading? You know, I go back and I check these scriptures and recheck, and that's never happened to you? Put a wrong scripture up there? No, it hadn't. 2 Samuel, let's try something else. 2 Samuel 23, verses starting at 8. All right, David was a warrior. We know that eventually he wanted to build a temple. He couldn't. These are the names of the mighty men which David had, and it lists them. And I'm not going to say all these names, but he's mighty men who David defended the Philistines in verse 9. And after them, he talks about other ones all the way to verse 39. He's talking about these mighty men. Let's go to like verse 20. Benaiah was the son of Jehoiada, the son of a valiant man from Keji. There's that genealogy, who had done many deeds. He had killed 2 lion-like heroes of Moab. He also had gone down and killed a lion in the midst of a pit on a snowy day. And he killed an Egyptian, a spectacular man. The Egyptian had a spear in his hand, so he went down to him with a staff, wrested the spear out of the Egyptian's hand, and killed him with his own spear. And then they go list other exploits. When you read these things and you see genealogy, it's boring, I know. First time I read through the Bible, I read it, and I said, I'm not reading this genealogy. This is boring. There's nothing I can learn out of that. But I said, you know what? No, if I'm going to do it, I have to at least read every word. I may not be able to pronounce it. So I did. So I've gone back, and it's amazing what you'll learn. Let's go to verse 39. This is the list of David's mighty men. And Uriah the Hittite, 37 in all. So he lists the mighty men. Who was Uriah the Hittite? Huh? I still can't hear you. Bathsheba's husband. Who cares? Because David was a mighty man. But see, Uriah, not only was Uriah, we know Uriah as Bathsheba's husband, but Uriah is actually one of his inner circle mighty men. So he's not just Bathsheba's husband. But when you read verses like that, and to be that one verse out of 60 of them, that genealogy kills me. You may read genealogy and not see anybody's name you recognize, but every once in a while you see Uriah, and we're going to talk about Uriah here in a little bit. So he's one of David's mighty men. He wasn't just Bathsheba's husband, which is what we all know about, but Uriah is higher than that. He's one of David's, I call them inner circle people. Okay, you talking about the mighty men or David or this? Well, it takes an ability to be able to do what some of the things. If you got the time, go back and read what some of them had done. But it does take special ability. So, and they did that in an army. So, is God allowing armies to exist in that time? Should we allow the armies to exist in today's time? Just throwing it out there. That's why we're going to get there. What's a when you're a king, and this is another reason why I think God didn't want him to have a king, but when you're a king, how many wives do you have? Huh? As many as you want? Why is that? Political, okay. Political is one. Let's go and we'll see a little bit about this. 1 Samuel chapter 18, verse 17. 1 Samuel chapter 18, verse 17. Now remember, God said, don't give the people, I don't want them to have a king, but they wanted one, so I'm going to give them one. Be careful what you ask for. 1 Samuel chapter 18, verse 17. Saul and David were kind of on good terms, or still on good terms. Then Saul said to David, here is my older daughter, Merab. I will give to you as a wife. Only be valiant for me and fight the Lord's battles. For Saul thought, let my hand not be against him, but let the hand of the Philistines be against him. So David said to Saul, who am I, and what is my life or my father's family in Israel, that I should be son-in-law to the king? But it happened at the time when Merab, Saul's daughter, should have been given to David, that she was given to Adriel the Meholite as a wife. Now Michal, Saul's daughter, loved David, and they told Saul, and the thing pleased him. And so Saul said, I will give her to him. So the point being, why did Saul want David to marry his daughter?
It says in the Bible that she may be a snare for him, and that the hand of the Philistines may be against him.
Okay. I'm going to put you on the spot, Ms. Miller. You said it. And you're just repeating what it said. Do you have any idea what that means? Now, I'm going to ask you for your opinion sometimes, and it's not, I'm not out to, I just want to hear what people's thought is and to get you in the process. Wow, I just read that. What does it mean? And you're a retired school teacher, so you're a smart lady anyway.
He says, and he continues, you shall now be my son-in-law. And Saul commanded his servants, speak to David in private and say, till the king has delighted in him, and his servants love him. Now then become the king's son-in-law. So he wanted him close.
And why? And you're right. Why did he want him close? Somebody said something over here. Keep an eye on him. Why do you want to keep an eye on him?
Because of all he did 1,000 and David did 10,000.
Okay. And if he's married to my daughter, I can keep an eye on him. But maybe I can love him as a true son-in-law. Maybe I can keep my eye on him, and he won't do anything to me because that's his wife. I'm her dad. Huh? He'd kill him? Jealous.
Then he sent David right into war with the Philistines to try to see if he could kill him.
And he sent him into war trying to get the Philistines, but that wouldn't work with David because David was a, which we're going to get to Bathsheba.
They were trying to get him killed first, I mean, by the Philistines, and what charge that daughter was going to cost.
All right.
To go get the foreskins of 100 Philistines, and he thought he'd get killed doing that.
That's right. So Saul's already, would you say he's paranoid? But he's supposed to be a godly man, right? But when you're the king and people bow down to you and do whatever it is they tell you to do, is that power? Is that absolute power? What's that saying? Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. When you start believing that you are not God, but you are the king and you are the one that does it. So when we mention political, and I won't go into it, how many wives did Solomon have? Too many? Who said too many? Too many. Why did Solomon have all those wives? And you mentioned it. Political reasons.
I think the other thing that you haven't brought up yet is, what did God tell them not to do?
What got Solomon in trouble?
Take wives of foreign. But the whole point of that was they were not supposed to make alliances with neighboring countries. They were supposed to wipe them all out. And so everything about this was against God's plan and what He originally told them when they first came into the promised land.
Well, as far as wiping countries out, Amalekites, yes. Wasn't there some other countries that God, when you get in, we haven't read it, that God told them don't mess with because they did give you aid or whatever when you came out? But what you're saying is true. You make alliances when you watch. There we go. Jennifer, Durham, you know who Errol Flynn was? Errol Flynn, the movie actor, the swashbuckling, and he's working for the Queen and everything. And they're bringing the girl from France or from Spain over to be married or whatever. Why did Spain and France and England and all them intermarry with the daughters? Huh?
They were actual hostages.
Well, they didn't call them hostages.
But that was the point. Was, hey, I got your daughter, you got my daughter. You do something against me.
Yeah. So when you see all that, that's where all this, and they did that way back in King Saul and King David and King Solomon's days. So, ma'am?
He also lost his daughter because she fell in love with him.
Well,
He said, you're going to marry this guy. Well, she fell in love with him, so it's like, Michael was in love with him. He didn't mean for that to really happen. He was just going to say, you have to do this. So
well, that one worked out because she did love him, right?
on a personal note, he lost.
Did
Start losing battles, he lost his daughter.
these intermarriages, when you did these for Spain or whatever, and I never watched Game of Thrones or whatever that the series was I watched, but didn't they do a lot of marrying queens over here and being a queen for somebody over there? What do you think it was like to go to a foreign land that you didn't want to really be there, to marry somebody you had no idea who you're marrying? Huh?
You would probably have a lot of, you'd be afraid.
You'd be afraid, unsure. But did the women have a choice back then? They didn't, all right? Different times. And again, I told you when I went to, when I was in the army and went to train with the Jordanian army, that the people, that King Hussein at the time, or King Hussein, or was it King Abdullah? One of them, might have been Hussein Abdullah, I can't remember. But their special, we trained with their special forces, and their special forces were bodyguards of the king. And again, the only way that you could be in the special forces and be in the bodyguard was be a blood relative of King Hussein. And why was that? Huh? Loyalty. Because if you messed me over, guess what I was going to do to your family? All right? North Korea, if you defect from North Korea and you get away, you're happy to, and this is today, what do the North Koreans do with your family that you leave behind? They snatch 3 generations up. If you've got kids, they take them. If you've got parents, they take them. If they've got grandparents, they take them. What do they do with them?
They send them to re-education.
Re-education camps. What's a re-education camp?
Teach them right. Slavery.
They put them in gulags, they put them in prison, and they work from sun up to sundown. They don't feed them until they die.
Oh, my goodness.
That's what, and that goes on today. So when you see things like that, so when you're a king and you marry in, y'all remember what happened with Saddam Hussein's son-in-laws and daughters? Anybody remember? What?
Basically just what you were talking about.
Well, what did I think they were his son-in-laws. What did his son-in-laws do? Saddam Hussein. Didn't they defect or somewhere go to another, but they were still married to his daughters, and his daughters were still in, and didn't he lure them to come back? And what did he do to them when they came back? They were never heard from again. So they've got alliances. That's why when kings married so many women, it was a figure, it was a political wedding, sort of an arms treaty. I won't attack you, you won't attack me. And if you do, then you got something to lose, I've got something to lose. Do we do that today? Do some countries do that today? Does the American Army do that today? So there are some differences from back in the olden times in the Old Testament to where we are today. So I guess we'll conclude with that. And just remember, so far, God has authorized a king, which he didn't want to do. And the result of that, he's got an army, which he probably didn't want to do because we're supposed to all be together. We're going to get ready to have the second bell. I'm going to go ahead and cut it off here. And I appreciate your time.